Sukhi Hotu. A very good evening and a warm welcome to Buddhist Mahavihara's Facebook page today. And tonight in the Dhammadana series, we have joining us live Bhante Dr. Varabuddhi Thero from USA. Bhante will be sharing about transforming suffering into peace and liberation. So I will introduce Bhante to the screen now. Good morning, Bhante.
Good evening to you.
I think it's early in the morning for you there. So thank you
Yes, of
for
course.
joining us. So before we proceed, let me introduce Bante's profile to all of us who are here today. And since it's Bante's first time in Buddhist Mahavihara, Malaysia, so Venerable Dr. Varabuddhi is the current chief monk of Mahamuni Theravada Buddhist Monastery in Minnesota, USA. He is originally from Western Myanmar, Rakhine State. After ordaining at the age of 12, he received his primary monastic education at his native village monastery and went to Panyaparami Pali Institute for higher monastic education. At the age of 20, he received higher ordination Upasampada at Dhanewadi Missionary Monastery in Rangoon, Myanmar. With the completion of basic monastic training, he then went to Thailand and also Sri Lanka, and he pursued his higher education from many universities and earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree, a Master's degrees in Arts, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Buddhist Studies from University of Kelaniya in Sri Lanka. Currently, Venerable is serving as a principal monarch and a president of MTBS of Minnesota and also one of the implementation committee members of Buddhist University of Arakan in Myanmar. Now I would like to hand over the studio to Bhante to start this evening's Dhamma session.
Good evening, everyone who is joining in this Dhammadana series, Buddhist Mahavihara of Malaysia. Here is today. I would like to share the topics transforming suffering into peace and liberation. And this is the very first time to have opportunity to share with you. And I have heard a long time ago for Buddhist Mahavira of Malaysia, since great master Dr. The most venerable Dr. Kesrin Dhammananda. But once I tried to visit there, but unfortunately I didn't uh, get a chance to get there. This time, uh, even though very long, very far away, I got a chance to share uh, to disciples of Mahavihara, Buddhist Mahavihara of Malaysia. And it is a great pleasure for me to be with you today because of distance of time. Here is morning, very early morning, and the weather is very cold now. So it may be uh, uncomfortable for me because of cold. But this is the experience of suffering. We can uh, realize that. So the cold weather also make us to be suffer, and sometimes the hot weather also can make us suffer. But this is just temporary. we can experience that. And in Malaysia, uh, when I visit there, this is and that was uh, raining and sometimes hot weather, but they are mixed. Uh, uh, I have experienced in Malaysia. I have been visited to Malaysia for 5 times, uh, a number of places such as Penang, Kuala Lumpur, and Johor, and 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 some other places in Malaysia. In Malaysia, so I feel it was nice weather. So a kind of uh, joy and pleasure we experienced. Nice weather also can we can feel that it is nice and we can enjoy something like that. This is our nature. If good things happen, we like it. If it uh, an easy thing and bad things, difficult way, and difficult situation happen, we try to deny, but we cannot avoid. We cannot run away. This is a kind of suffering. So, in today's topic, transforming suffering into peace and liberation. So, first of all, to transform suffering, we should know what is suffering and the nature of suffering and how many kinds of suffering and the level of suffering. There are many kinds of suffering. So this is what the Buddha said in the Four Noble Truths. Suffering, the cause of suffering, and at the end of suffering, the way to end of suffering. And these are Four Noble Truths. So first of all, we should know that what is suffering. If we know this is suffering, then we can experience and we try to transform into suffering. When we realize that this is suffering, then we can experience uh, after having suffering, there is peace. After having realizing this is suffering, there can be a kind of peace. And after that, we can feel that liberation. This is a connection. We cannot run away from suffering, and we have to find what makes us to be suffer. So there is a cause to make us suffer, and there are the cessation of suffering. And in other words, we can say the end of suffering. This is a nirodha, and in other words, liberation from the suffering. And there are ways to end and to liberate the suffering. So suffering can be happen to all of us, physically, mentally, and we can look at that. Even the Buddha, he was not a god, supernatural god. He was not a supernatural god. He was a human being like us, and he also uh, physically suffered just as we do. And if we go to Buddha with our own heart and open-minded, then we can think that he will look at us with his eyes filled with compassion and say, because there's a suffering in our heart, in it, it is possible for us to enter my heart. This is seen uh, in some Buddhist masters, such as Vietnamese Zen Buddhist master. He has presented in the book of the heart of uh, Buddhist the heart of Buddhist teaching. This is based on uh, the Four Noble Truths and Noble Eightfold Path. So this is a great book, a well-known book, and a very famous in some Buddhist uh, countries and some Buddhist students and some Buddhist lay or some Buddhist scholars, and even at some other uh, part of the world. And the Buddha has taught us for 45 years. There are only he teach us. He is our master. He is our great master. He said again and again, there are only teaching that I get suffering and this transformation of suffering. These are only two things. That means dukkha and dukkha nirodha. So to liberate or to peace, we should know what is suffering. And if we recognize and acknowledge our own suffering, we can experience a moment of peace, a moment of liberation. Liberation, we are here, what I mean. Liberation from greed, anger, and hatred, and other attachments. We cannot liberate uh, without experiencing suffering, and it is liberation. So we should know that this is suffering. So before the Buddha uh, got enlightenment, he was a prince, and one day he went out. Before he went out of the palace, he used to feel that everything is pleasurable. No one is in old age, no one is sick, and no one's dying that he never seen. But one day he went outside of palace. Then there are four sides of things. Then he turned to realize that there are things like what I also will be the same. So he tried to change his attitudes to such to liberate and to get enlightenment. And after practicing and searching for 6 long years from different teachers, but finally he he got enlightenment by own practicing. Then he taught us this is suffering, and if we know this is suffering, then we can find the way to end our suffering and peace. And suffering is the means the Buddha used to liberate himself, and it is also a means by which we can become free. That is to be understood and to be realized. This is suffering, and there are ways to end up suffering. That means to liberate. So, to suffering, dukkha. Dukkha is to be recognized, to be experienced. We cannot run away. If we recognize, then we can realize and we can experience this is dukkha. Suppose now we can see that there are many people who suffer with our own experience because of the nature, because of our family, because of our nation, and many other kinds of suffering. These are external, but in Four Noble Truth, there are things, suffering is exactly with us. That means before we are getting old, but after, as soon as we born, suffering is with us. That's why jati, parisande is suffering, the Buddha say, and then become born. Being born is suffering, and getting old, getting sick, and separating uh, with loves, that is suffering, and getting what we don't like is suffering, and not getting what we want is suffering, and finally, the to clinging our five aggregates is suffering. So this is the way to know and to understand how suffering is linking in our circle of life. There are oceans of suffering in the midst, but if we turn around, we can see the land. In the ocean of suffering, sometimes we can cross the ocean by boat and by ship, and sometimes we can try that. There are ways. So the seed of suffering in us may be strong, but we shouldn't wait until we have no more suffering before allowing ourselves to be happy. We should not wait We have no time to wait. Just the acknowledge, just the experience. This is a suffering. We cannot run away from the suffering. Like we see as a gardener, when one tree is a tree in a garden is sick, a gardener has to care for it, but he doesn't need to overlook all the healthy trees. In a garden, there are plenty of flowers, plenty of trees, but not everything, every tree is good. And tree sometimes here, for example, here this is very here in the United States, especially in Central and East Coast. This is a snowing time, snow winter. And before we we are here in this period of time, we could see that there are many trees. They make us very nice colors. And the whole city very colorful, a yellow, red, and a pink, and so many uh, colorful trees. They make us uh, to be uh, a peaceful mind, a peaceful looking, and a joyful moment, pleasurable, and a taking photo. There are many people who come to visit to our state. They take us, they take photo and see how nice. But after 2 or 3 days, the leaves come down. So everything like we feel good or bad. Suffering and peace and suffering and happiness are just temporary. But the one who understand, realize this is suffering, then he can experience this is peace. This is a liberation. Without knowing, without experiencing, without realizing suffering, there is no peace we can experience. There is no liberation we can experience. And even we have pain in ourselves or in our heart, we can enjoy the many wonders of the life and beautiful sunsets, the smile of the shine we can see, and the many flowers of tree. It is like a sweet of suffering. We all feel that there are peace, uh, sukha karma, dukkha particular. In a Palita, sukha karma means that we want happiness, we want peacefulness, we want a happier moment. We like enjoying, we like joyful family, joyful relationship, and we don't like a painful and a sorrowful, destructive life. That means dukkha particular. We don't like dukkha, but we cannot run away. Even though we don't like dukkha, we cannot run away. the most important thing we can try the way is to face suffering, to face dukkha. Without facing, we cannot experience dukkha. This is very common to us. So noble person who why we call that because he tried to face dukkha and he overcome it because of experiencing then realize. Suppose for common sense, this is just like temporary and just a momentary. So after having experienced, this is we need the resilience in our life. Suppose as a soccer, at the very first time, very last time of exercise, he may be tired. He cannot play for a game until finish. Football, soccer, 90 minutes. First half, 45 minutes. Second half, 45 minutes. And then rest time, 15 minutes. So within 2 hours, the two play 2 hours in one circle. Sometimes at least 3 days, and sometimes at least more than 3 times, 3 days, 6 days. They have to exercise to play game over. So exercise many days and in appear to play 2 hours. So to play 2 hours, we have to practice the exercise for many hours. This is the thing we can look at that in our life. So to do something very smoothly, very skillfully, we have to exercise for many times and many days. After that, we can um, experienced and we can become very skillfully. So there are many things to be learned in our life. We can learn to be happy from suffering. We can learn to be peace in suffering. And we can learn to liberate from our suffering. There are ways to be learned. And here, I would like to share something that is to think to suffer is not enough. There is always a solution. Let us think that to suffer and to this is suffering. What we can say is not enough. We have to find there are ways to solve that problem. So suffering is compared to problem. There are ways to have a solution. So to suffer is not enough. There is always a solution. If we have experience of hungry, we try to find food. We try to find food to solve our hunger, to solve our hungry moment. So this is solution. Without finding, without searching a solution, hungry, even though we are crying with louder, but there's no solution. But we have to work hard to get food to solve our hungry. So this is to understand the way it is. What make us suffer? There are always a solution. This is a very common way, but we try to avoid uh, to get a solution. There are always we as a common people, common human being, we always think that we like easy thing, easy thing, easy way to get, easy thing to eat. So before we get that easy thing, we have to hard work. We have to hard. We have to work harder and harder. That is uh, a right effort in noble effort path. And if we have experience of a hunger, we know that having food is a solution. It is really true. So uh, sometimes I travel somewhere, you too. So sometimes there are no restaurant, and at the same time we also didn't carry um, and we also didn't bring any food with us. Then hungry make us a lot of suffer, very much suffer. So we before we go somewhere home, a distance, how many hours it takes us. So we have to think of that. So especially for the monk, sometimes we have to add in a certain time. So traveling around uh, the world, even in United States, it's very hard to get a certain time for food. In a Buddhist country, and there can have uh, a certain time we can have. So there are many things to understand that the way in our life every day, every moment have suffering. So knowing suffering is a solution. To find the way to solve that problem is a solution. When we get it, we solve that problem. So to liberate means uh, free from suffering. This is when we shift uh, the cessation of suffering. This is not a common people have experienced, but a noble disciple of the Buddha. That is, and how can we say that the who can realize, understand the Four Noble Truth uh, in his life or her life. That is a real Tangico Mago, and who follow this path and a noble person, that is Sotapanna, Skadagan, and Anaga, and Arhan. So this poor uh, person, they realized the Four Noble Truth, then they experienced, and after Arhan, he has no more reborn. So no more reborn means no suffering, in next life. So for us, physically, mentally, still exists with us. The suffering is with us. And when we have suffer, we know how to appreciate. That means the element the element of pleasure, element of paradise that are present. That means if we experience just a temporary, this is experience and understand, and uh, this suffering is no more than 1 hour. Suppose I'm sitting here now, my leg, my hand, my bone, and this part of my body become a pain. If we sit long hours, we still pain. But if we realize that this is the nature of pain in our body, then we uh, we can relax and we can understand this is the nature, not all the time, just changing, temporarily coming and exiting and disappear. So this is the nature. When we understand like this, peace, just a moment, a temporary peace we experience, and liberation also we can experience because of we let the pain and we feel the experience was peace. So they are suffering and peace are just like opposite. Knowing without suffering there is no peace. Without understanding there is no peace. Without experiencing of suffering, we could not realize how a peace is. So to feel, to experience peace, first of all, we experience, we know this is suffering. If we dwell in and or living only in our suffering, we will miss paradise. We should not ignore our own suffering, but we shouldn't forget to enjoy the wonders of life for our sake and for the benefit of many beings. That means to find, uh, to seek, or to seek of our benefits for ourselves, for many beings. So we shouldn't ignore our suffering, but we at the same time we shouldn't forget suffering. And that means uh, to appreciate, to accept, to recognize, to acknowledge our suffering is with us. So just appreciate. Oh, this is uh, a source of peace when suffering experience. And then we can acknowledge or we can recognize that this is a source of peace. That is intellectual knowledge, insightful knowledge. We can uh, distinguish, and we can uh, when we distinguish, when we investigate, this is the suffering. There will be uh, peace and liberation. Without suffering, we cannot grow. As soon as we born, we we cry. But when we are mature person, we have resilience not to cry. So just like baby and adults and grow up. So baby just uh, when uh, babies hunger, the his or her uh, a baby can cry to get some uh, something, some food or water or milk uh, to serve his or her hungry. So without suffering, we cannot get the peace and liberation. So here we should understand that we should not run away from our suffering. It is true, we cannot run away from our suffering, but we have to peace and embrace it like uh, uh, cherish it. And we can think that go to the Buddha. Just imagine going to the Buddha and sitting with him and show him our suffering, our pain. So this is just like uh, our critical or intellectual knowledge to build up our life. Just to go there. Sometimes we see in front of a Buddha statue, we go and practice meditation, sit and recite some Buddha sutras and some preta and some gatha. And this is the way to feel, to experience our uh, momentary concentration, momentary peace. And after many times, if we understand, then liberation arises in our heart, in our mind, in our life. So when we go to the Buddha, so to copy his teaching to our life, there's the quality of Buddha. So, so he has uh, such quality. Iti piso bhagava arahant samma sambuddha. Like so, we recite such qualities. Then to experience that, oh, the Buddha has such qualities. We should recite and we should experience how he has and he faced uh, those kind of suffering in his life, and he become enlightened one. He is a human being, but realized uh, and understood all natural suffering, physical suffering, mental suffering, and the nature of life. Then even though suffering comes, he can face physically, but he has no more suffering in mentally, but physically still have. That means uh, he he has to pass away, but there is no more reborn again. So as soon as he got enlightened, uh, he he reset and he spread out his world. So I become enlightened one and the Buddha. There is no reborn again for me. This is his great statement. For us, we don't have, we still have, we still don't have full of courage to say there is no reborn again. That we are not sure in this moment, today's life. So we still feel good or bad, we like or dislike. So painful or joyful. So just like temporary, just like temporary. So when we go to the Buddha with our pain, with our own suffering, and due to some circumstance, such as we lost our beloved one, we lost our uh, loved ones, and even when the Buddha time, there are some person such as Padasari, Padasara, uh, she has full of uh, loss, then no way to get uh, a solution. Then she went to the Buddha and see what uh, she has lost, husband, sons, but finally there is no one uh, who hasn't lost a beloved one in every houses. So this is the way uh, to find, to think that. So the Buddha gives such a way. Why you are suffer? So she replied that I lost my beloved ones. Then to get this, there is a solution. So you go and ask somewhere, then I give you solution. Then she went around the village and asking some uh, um medicine. There's a master seed. Again, we can understand that. So asking a master seed, but the house there was no one who died. Then she asked all houses, but there is uh, no house never died and beloved one. Then she got uh, the way to realize not only me has such kind of suffering, but everyone who is uh, in this world, they may have the same experience. So the Buddha get her. This is the nature of our life. Being suffering is not uh, a new way, but this is the old way. Everyone has the same pattern, but who knows uh, to handle that suffering? Then uh, the one he can experience this is peace. So this is the way. So there are things we can uh, learn that from the Four Noble Truths. So just like prescribed in modern medicine. So if we sick and going to doctor, the doctor gave us what time can have medicine, morning, noon, and evening. If we don't have this medicine 3 times a day, then the pain or your sickness will not recover. So according to the guidance of a doctor, uh, a prescription, we have medicine. Yeah, just like us, this is the way to understand. The Buddha is like a doctor, but a great doctor. He can give us the way to liberate, uh, to feel liberation of our life, not just temporary, but internally, entirely. So, uh, what uh, things suffer or peacefulness happen in our life, we should compare to the Four Noble Truths. And this is suffering that is in dukkha. And they are the cause of suffering that is we deny, we run away, or because of our craving, our more greediness, suffering arise. And there are the ways to solve that problem. That is Maga. And finally, we can uh, experience the cessation of suffering. That is a Nirodha. If we know uh, uh, that kind of pattern and the Four Noble Truths, then there are no more over suffer because we know the nature of suffering. Okay, finally, I would like to conclude my sharing, transforming, transforming into transforming suffering into peace and liberation. That is to understand suffering first, and to understand the cause of suffering, and to experience in the end of suffering. There are ways to practice and to follow a noble eightfold path: right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, and right concentration, right mindfulness, and right concentration. If we follow such a noble eightfold path, we can experience peace and liberation. Now I should end up my talk, my sharing Dharma. And the person who really want to experience the happiness and a peace and liberation, just peace the suffering, just recognize the suffering, just acknowledge suffering. Without having experience for suffering, there is no peace and there is no liberation. May you all be happy and healthy and at peace and liberation in this life. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bante, for sharing this insightful Dhamma today. Since we are now at the end of the Dhamma talk, I would like to invite Bante to do the Anumodana to the Devas and the departed beings.
Yeah. Sapitiyo vivajantu sappharogo vinasatu mate bhavan tantaraya sukhi dika yuko bhava abhivadana silecha necha oda pachayino tattaro dhamma vadanti ayuvano sukha balan.
Sukhiyat Bante. So now that we have reached today's end of the today's Dhammadana series, before we end this Facebook Live, I would like to thank Bante on behalf of the committee, the monks, and the management of Buddhist Mahavihara Malaysia. And I would also like to give a very big thank you for those who joined us this evening to listen to this Dhamma sharing. Thank you, Suki Hotu.
Peace with you.